Right now I'd like to introduce David Berenson. David is the a former co-chair of the committee that I sit on and has a great deal of experience in activism in the community. Is still a board member with Cleveland Peace Action. He's going to moderate the question and answer period, so I'll turn it over to David now.
So actually, before I start, I'm going to say that a lot of my experience in facilitating questions and answers has been on Israel-Palestine issues, which is often a very emotional topic for everybody. But I will say that a lot of both of your presentations brought back memories, because I'm the child of a Holocaust survivor, a Nazi Holocaust survivor, and I bring my mother into the schools that I work in to show her slides that look an awful lot like yours.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, so it's interesting because I'm just setting her up in a couple of weeks at the school I work at to speak about her escape from Nazi Germany. So one of the things I try to do best is try to keep the order of whose hands I see, so I get to call on people. But I will ask everybody to be polite. There will be a lot of people that want to speak. Try to keep your comments and questions as brief as possible and concise, and be respectful. So I saw your hand and then your hand.
Yeah, my question to the speakers is louder?
Yeah, a little louder, yeah.
My question to the speakers is how many, I'm just curious, I came in a little late, so I apologize if anything, if my question has been covered, but how many Palestinians today have been killed by Israelis? And how many Palestinians are there?
Any answer? You can keep seated if you want, because you have a lot of voice.
Sure.
But we'll
Okay.
give Nahida the,
Sounds good.
It depends on the time. I just saw a statistics that one Palestinian is killed every 3 days in the West Bank. And then, of course, you've heard about cast lead and the last bombing in Gaza, and we're talking about thousands. But on a regular basis, they're killed on a regular basis. You just don't hear about it. There is an excellent Israeli website, human rights website called Beit Salem. You can Google that, and that gives you all the statistics. There was one 10-year period where 10,000 Palestinians were killed and a few hundred Israelis were killed.
yes.
My question is similar to his, in that how many Palestinians were there before this occupation? Meaning all the way back to the 20s. How many Palestinians were in Palestine?
In the 20s, there was a little bit over 1.1 million Palestinians, and the breakdown by proportions back in the first part of the 20th century was about 6% Jewish and about 10 to 12% Christian, and the remaining were Muslim. It's very difficult to come up with exact statistics. The British mandate started putting out statistics that may be a little bit more accurate, but that started in the 20s.
So my question is trifold. So from the 20s on forward, how many Palestinians have been exterminated?
Okay.
Removed, exterminated from their country, and how many Palestinians are there worldwide at present?
Okay, yes, that's what I was going to ask. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Loud.
They're asking you to stand up.
Oh, stand up. Sure. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be disrespectful. He just told me that you guys can hear my voice while sitting. I believe the last time I researched, Palestinians right now are over 10 million worldwide. Okay, that's including the United States, that's including from one end to the other. It's about 10 million Palestinians worldwide, 7.2 million refugees, so the majority are not inside Palestine, or historic Palestine, or occupied Palestine, or whatever you want to call it. Yes?
And then we're going to move on to somebody else.
Knowing that figure, if you did a population, sort of extrapolation, how many Palestinians should there be at present? I know there's a formula. Has anyone ever taken the time to say, if you were not removed and you were not exterminated, how many Palestinians should there be? Present day. No, it's not impossible.
You ask a very difficult question. Population growth, it is dependent on situation. For example, In any human population during war, the birth rate goes up. Includes the United States during the Second World War. It includes the Palestinians in Gaza have the highest birth rate. Now, if none of this happened, if the European Jews didn't come in and take over, it wouldn't have been a war situation. So, yes, populations do grow on an exponential rate. Excuse me, I'm a statistician, so I'm sort of taking the opportunity to speak about this. So you really basically ask a very difficult question. I think there may be more than 11 million, maybe 12 million, but that's just a pure guess. And I'm not sure whether that really accomplishes anything, knowing that.
Thanks. Yes, well.
I'd like to add a comment.
Well, we have somebody else before you, and then you'll be next. Okay, thanks.
I can't believe, after hearing Dr. Gordon and the other gentlemen, that I'm the only person who did not see a tragic, relentless historical parallel between what is happening in Palestine and what happened in the United States with our own indigenous native population. We have the same massacres, we have the same tragedies, we have the same legal agreements made and broken, and we have the same individuals who are justifying with trying to find facts to justify either position. And the gentleman said, I think I heard you say there is only one truth. I disagree with that. I think there are zillions of truths. Truth is so much a perception that it is basically the cause of this situation. So, I don't know. I look at our Indian population today, and I see where history has finally put it in isolated, small places where they have some sort of remaining identity, some relative power, but nothing at all. That's it. Nothing similar to what they had.
And the question is,
So I can't make my question.
It doesn't have to be a question.
I'll ask the question. Does anybody really believe here that it is possible to solve this situation?
Is that you're asking the crowd?
Human beings who we are today.
We're going to try to ask questions of the
Okay, I'm
speakers,
sorry, but
and then I have the woman in back, and then you. But did you want to answer that question
Sure.
first before?
I just wanted to, about the one truth. What I meant is based on facts. I know there are truths all over. I know there are massacres here with the Native Americans, which we Palestinians identify with, by the way, 100%, and we recognize that fact. We also have allies within the Palestinian struggle who happen to be Native Americans.
Facts make no difference.
Okay, that's your opinion.
I would like to say something about the Native Americans and what happened in the United States. Now, please don't misconstrue what I'm saying as a defense of what happened in this country. However, it happened 300 years ago when colonialism was very much in style. What is happening in Palestine is colonialism, and it is way out of style. Most colonial powers left their colonies in Africa and Asia and so forth, whereas here we have a brand new starting colonial occupation of a country beginning in the 20th century. That is unique.
Thank you. Yes.
Before this gentleman leaves, excuse me, sir.
yes.
Oh, I see, okay. It's mostly of a reaction of my background. To be able to get with a number of population of Palestinians, you have a lot of them that left Palestine and picked up an identity of another country, whether in Syria, in Lebanon.
I realize that, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's why I think it's going to be a very difficult way to answer that question, because this population is totally diluted and who they are and what we are right now.
Okay, thanks for adding that. Did you have any comments about that?
I wasn't sure exactly what the question, it sounded like a comment
No
to me.
question.
Well, she was adding to what
Okay,
he was
okay.
asking.
No, just trying to.
Gotcha. Okay, that's
Trying
fine.
to help you out with an answer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I was reading the little handout of, I guess, the mission statement of Cleveland Peace Action, and it says on the topic of Israel-Palestine, we seek a lasting, peaceful, just, and sustainable solution. And I was wondering, in your opinion, what that lasting, peaceful solution is.
That's a good question, and I might answer all that as well from the peace action side after they answer from their perspective.
To me, a solution is just only if I and my ancestors are descendants, are allowed to return to Palestine. I would like to see a country where each person has equal human rights, and that's what I'd like to see happen in Palestine, Israel. I don't care if it's called Israel or it's called Palestine, but I would like to see that the government of Israel abide by international law, allow the Palestinians to return, and try and live together. Now, let me tell you, when I was a child, one of my friends was a Jewish girl. Her mother was Jewish, her father was a Palestinian Christian. And her mother was a very good friend of my mother, and and the kids played together. We were very good friends. We lived together, we got along fine. It's doable. Palestinians, there's no reason why Palestinians of either religion, Jewish, and frankly, Palestinians were Jewish too. We were all three religions, we got along fine. And that is the ultimate solution. We all have to learn how to live together and respect each other.
I think my answer would be similar to Dr. Nahida's. First and foremost, you have to seek human rights, you have to seek equality, and these are not just words. These are not like Benjamin Netanyahu coming over to Congress and scaring you and saying we have to bomb Iraq, in order to to bomb Iran, in order to sit down at the table, okay? I personally believe, and a lot of Palestinians, that you have to dismantle Zionism, okay? Which is a racist, supremacist ideology. Just like Nazism was dismantled in World War II, that must be done. That is the first step that needs to be taken. You must dismantle an ideology or a form that oppresses other people. That's where you start with peace. Because you cannot live under occupation, you cannot live under colonization, you cannot live under a structure that treats Palestinians as second-class citizens.
Okay. I'm trying to keep track of hands that have went up, but I'm going to give you a little perspective from the Cleveland Peace Action side, because we started this Peace Action Middle East Peace Committee in 2006. And so since then, we've had a lot of programs, a lot of discussions, and we don't have any specific agreement on what constitutes the solution. There's a couple things that we have all agreed on. One is the end of the occupation, the end of the Israeli occupation of Palestine. And then the other thing we've all agreed upon is the end of legal and illegal treatment of Palestinians, both in the occupied territories as well as East Jerusalem, which includes laws about housing and treatment and not allowing permits and knocking down of olive trees. And there's a lot of stuff that is going on that's both illegal and some of it is allowed by. So anyway, those are just some things that we've agreed upon. But we've had a lot of discussions about the main thing that goes back and forth is between a one-state solution or a two-state solution, and we've not all agreed upon that, and therefore we've left our statement a little more broad. So did you have a quick follow-up? And then I have 3 or 4 hands that went up. Okay. All right. I saw your hand up, and then yours in the blue, and then yours. Okay. And then yours. Okay.
Dr. Gordon and Mr.
Stand up.
Dr. Gordon and Mr. Hamideh, personally, how do you feel?
I'll repeat it after she says it.
How do you feel that the solution you have described to the problem is facilitated best? One state or two states?
Did you hear that? How is it best facilitated? One state or two states?
For many of us, we believe that a two-state solution from the get-go was never feasible. And some of us believe, and when I'm saying some of us, I'm saying Palestinians or people who support the cause or supporting ending the occupation. It's basically that the two-state solution is dead. And why is it dead? Is because of the illegal settlements in Palestine who are overflowing into other villages and other towns, and you have the security barrier or the so-called security wall, which is basically designed to steal more land from Palestinians, but they want to call it the security buffer, which hasn't helped if you've been following. So under that context, you cannot have a two-state solution, because if you look at what originally the two-state solution that was on the table was approximately 22% of Palestine. From the original 100% or 98% or whatever you want to call of original Palestinian land. So it is not feasible. We believe that a one-state solution or a one land where all people can live peacefully as human beings, where nobody oppresses the other, is more likely. Now, of course, me as a Palestinian, as someone who fights for the liberation of Palestine, and it is my right to say this, I want a Palestine from the river to the sea. That's me personally. But you must start somewhere where you have to end the oppression of another.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. How much of this do you see as being biblical? Because these were the chosen people, they were given this land, and in the Bible it says, you have permission, my permission to kick out the people that are not Jewish. So how much of this is inherent in the religion?
I don't think this is a war between religions. I think this is a political undertaking to take land. And religion is used, and the Bible is used, and it has some effect amongst the Christian Zionists, who are extremely powerful in this country. And you find Christian Zionists in England and elsewhere in Europe. So I don't think this is a matter of religion. It's a matter of politics. And yes, I do hear this idea that God gave us the land, but I think they just use that as a talking point. I don't think they really believe that. They didn't depend on God, they depended on themselves to take over Palestine.
Okay, I have 3 more hands that I've seen. You, then you, then you. Yes.
I'm going to pass, but thank you.
Okay, do you want me to come back to you later, or just pass?
That's okay.
Okay, all right, thank you. Rosemary.
With regard to the question about will there ever be a solution to this problem, we were there last June, and for the first time since 2011.
Where were you?
In Palestine and Israel. At that time, things had gotten really rough. People were imprisoning in Ramallah a 5-year-old boy who had thrown stones in solitary imprisonment. They were shooting people, who were peacefully demonstrating and obviously peacefully demonstrating. And I think what happens in peaceful resistance is that things get far worse before they ever get better. And the other thing that we saw was that throughout all of Palestine, there was a much, much stronger, much, much united, peaceful resistance throughout the whole land. And I think that that is a sign of peace, that this cannot go on the way it is now. Israel can't survive by the way they are treating a minority, or it's not really a minority.
Yeah.
But by the way they're treating the people that are in occupation. So I believe in peace.
May I answer her question, not a question to you?
That would be fine with me.
That would be fine? Okay. I know this is not a religious war, but there is a big group of Christians that do believe and support Israel, the right of land, and they are the chosen people. But I, as a Christian, and I'm Presbyterian, I believe the chosen people are the people of God wherever they are, and the Bible has been fulfilled, the Old Testament, with the birth of Jesus Christ.
Okay, before I go on to the next people whose hands up, I want to announce that the Food Not Bombs people have shown up with food. So after we're done with this, or if anybody's hungry now, I think you guys are set up. From what I understand, Food Not Bombs is always vegetarian, is that correct?
Everything is vegan except for the chips.